This meeting is held remotely pursuant to the provisions of an act signed by Governor Baker on July 16th, 2022. An act relative to extending certain state of emergency accommodations, which, among other things, extends the expiration of the provision pertaining to the open meeting law. Specifically, this extension allows public bodies to continue holding meetings remotely without a quorum of the public body physically present at the meeting location and to provide adequate alternative access. This act does not make any new changes. Be aware that this meeting is being recorded and anything you say or share can be seen and heard by others. We'll do a roll call to determine whether we have a quorum. MJ.
Present.
Carolyn.
Here.
Julie.
Here.
Ellie.
Here.
Eloise. And Tim. We have a quorum. We'll call the meeting to order at 7:38. The minutes of September 19th. Have everybody had a chance to read those? Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
And any additions or corrections? So we'll do a roll call vote. MJ,
Aye.
Carolyn,
Aye.
Julie,
Aye.
Ellie,
Aye.
Eloise. Aye. Tim, aye. And that passes.
You have to
Bills,
raise your
payments.
voice a little bit more when you're being Eloise.
Oh, we don't have any bills, right?
There she is.
Aye. Is that right, Carolyn? We don't have, I mean, Maureen, we don't have any bills, right?
You don't have any bills and you don't have any payments, but I do have financial information available.
Exciting.
Yeah, this is good news. So the CP1 and CP2 reports have been submitted to the state. The CP1, which is your surcharge that the town collected, was $319,659.45. And then the CP2, which is the state match and any interest that your accounts, was able to get over the year. Those numbers were, for the state match, was $303,629. Then there's two different breakouts of interest. One on the earnings was $445.96. And then there's an other interest. I'll have to ask June what that actually is, but it's another $553, which gives your CPA total $1,938,524.64. So it's pretty good money.
Holy cow. And that does, and we still haven't gotten the state match this year, correct?
Correct. Right.
Wow.
So she'll stay in touch with me when these numbers are certified. But the good news is they've been reported to the state to be certified.
So that's our gross number. That isn't our available number. That's our gross.
Right, from these two reports, right? So she'll provide us with the breakdown for each category after DOR certifies.
When is that?
When is that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Whenever.
Yeah. I mean, I think it really depends on when you get it in. We're probably right in the pack of every other community. So, we'll know by the time you are making your decisions in January on your projects, for sure, what you can go to town meeting with, but no promise on a date.
I mean, housing has $200,000, and then they'll have an additional amount that'll come online as a result of the money that we'll put into their coffers at the Maytown meeting. So that'll jump to like 250. Open space had some of its money that was expended come back somewhere around 50,000, and there was some left over. So open space right now probably has $85,000 or $90,000. The historic preservation account, that one is probably somewhere around 50,000. But in the budgeted, well, it probably didn't go, the 850 that came back probably didn't go to budgeted reserves. Some of it went to open space. The majority of it went probably into the general account. And we'll move it into budgeted reserve, but that means that in that fund, there's over $800,000. It's probably, given what we're going to generate this time around, it's going to be over $1 million. So we have, given the projects that have been laid on the table right now, we're in good shape. I mean, if some emergency came up, we'd be able to handle it probably with an article on the warrant if it was necessary. So we're in good spot.
Whew. Thank you all for supporting Horseshoe Pond. And that brought a lot of it back to CPA, but I appreciate the faith that would work out.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about this before, the opportunity to leverage these funds to apply for state matches or grants or whatever is, a golden opportunity. And so I think one of the things the Regional Planning Commission has begun to do is says it would assist communities in the writing of grant proposals for state and federal monies. So I think we ought to be knocking on their door and saying, tell us some of the opportunities that exist, because we've got this CPA funding. And if we could line it up with grant funds that are out there for historic preservation or recreation or open space or housing, we ought to jump at the opportunity. So anyway, that's the budget situation and the bill situation. Updates. We should hear from the state in sometime in the next 3 or 4 weeks as to what our match will be. I suspect, given their revenue reduction over what it's been in the past couple of years and the fact that the legislature didn't pump in the extra 20 million that was requested, we'll probably end up with maybe 75 or 80% match, which, that would still mean if we're at 220, 320, a 70% match is still going to be pretty significant, close to 250,000 probably. So that's good. It means, again, over 500,000, almost $600,000 in CPA revenue for this fiscal year. So that's a nice position to be in. Project updates. So I think we talked about this last time. The pavilion's going to go back to town meeting to change the language so that the building can be located on the opposite side of the school from where it was initially proposed. And so there won't be anything done on that during the next 6 months. But I imagine once that's settled at town meeting, which should be an easy vote, the opportunity to jump right into that will go full force. The announcer's booth, that the money isn't there in order to cover the full cost. So Julie, what's your sense? Is there going to be an attempt to reintroduce that and make a new proposal with a different number?
Yeah, Tim, am I on mute? No, I'm not. Okay. I think that's exactly what they want to do. Because it has to be, and they want it to be ADA accessible. It does come in much higher after they spoke with the building inspector. It'll be much more than 10,000. So I believe the board is trying to put together a new proposal for that. I'm not sure they're gonna have it for the November 1st deadline, but I think that they are hopeful from what I heard. And that's the last I knew. But to answer your question, yeah, they are putting together a new proposal.
So what we'll do is there's probably a mechanism to unwrap proposals that went to a town meeting and were voted if they're not going to be pursued. You know, this is, I guess we'd look at this as a new proposal with a new number, and maybe it's the easiest thing to do is rather than tack on additional funds to the old one, just start fresh with a whole new proposal that just outlines. So Maureen and I will figure out how to, you know, roll back a proposal that's been voted that is going to be inactive, I guess, essentially. So
Okay.
I don't know if that's
I'll
going
let
to
them
be
know.
a vote just by the committee, or, you know, whether it's something more technical where we got to go back to town meeting or something like that. I think we can do it just as a committee, but we'll find out.
So I did a little research on that, Tim.
Yes.
You will have to take a vote, but there'll also need to be a form where the applicant actually signs the recognition that it's kind of being withdrawn and going to be cleared out. So I'll have to come up with a form that gets the signatures, and then Kristen will probably also have to sign it. So you guys will sign it, the applicant, and probably Kristen, and maybe the select board. But I'll do a little bit more research. But there's actually like a form so that the accountant can show to the, you know, auditors. That's why they moved that money back into that bucket.
Perfect.
So I'll get that going.
And then right now, projects that we'll expect applications for would be the booth then.
Yeah.
And the housing coordinator position that we've said we in the past partially support the cost of during fiscal 24 and 25. So there'll be that article. I met with the Housing Trust, and this is back to that conversation we've had in the past about the transparency issue. And I was looking at the consortium, the CPA consortium's website before we met tonight, and I'm going to look at that again. But what I discussed with them when I met with them was that they would, with their housing coordinator, identify a couple projects, for instance, first-time home buyer assistance, where they might work with Habitat for Humanity and the some of the shared expenses for getting a project off the ground. So if we had a tax title piece of land, the town might very well vote to turn that over to Habitat. And then CPA might very well turn money over to the Housing Trust specifically for use at some future time for them to help with first-time homebuyer opportunities. So they would be transparent about what the intent was when the money was taken out of CPA and put into their hands, but they wouldn't be expected to expend it until they had the, you know, the necessary project. Or they might do for, you know, rental assistance, emergency rental assistance, or what any. So then anyway, they're reviewing what some of the opportunities might be with their housing coordinator. And I would think that they might have one, maybe two proposals for the annual town meeting to take some of that CPA housing, community housing money out of their account. Because like I said, they're gonna have 250,000 or so, so. They might very well pull a big chunk of that out and put it into separate accounts that then they would have the authority to expend. The consortium's website says, once you do that, though, really hold the housing trust's feet to the fire and make sure you get reports back that talk about the expenditure of those funds so you can put it into your reports. So there's a lot of transparency through the process. So does that seem fair to people to have them identify potential uses and use that as the project goal rather than just turning the money over to them entirely?
Absolutely.
Yes,
Okay,
And then
What do you
that way
think?
we can go to town meeting and say, this is what the money's designated for.
I think they're happy with that. And Jasifa, who's their housing coordinator, met with them last. Did she meet with you today, Eloise?
not today, but she did. No, I think it's next week.
She's gonna meet with you next week?
I think so.
Okay. So she's gonna catch up with Eloise but she's getting a feel for the town, and I think the housing trust will be in good hands with her helping them out, so. So those are the projects we know of right now. Does anybody have anything else that they anticipate showing up for this annual town meeting?
I was hopeful that we would have a CR, not buying the property, just buying a CR on a piece of land that I know everybody would like to see a CR on. But I'll hopefully know in the next couple of weeks if the family is going to be able to be ready.
Good.
But so let me just ask a kind of a procedural question about that. If it didn't look like they were going to be ready for November 1st, but they were going to be ready for January 1st, would you want some kind of placeholder for November 1st or?
Yes,
Okay,
that just gives the committee a sort of a whack in the head reminder.
okay. All right, so I'll just have to, I really have to get permission from the family to start talking about it publicly also.
And
Does
well,
it,
let's
does it,
talk about that. Do people have trouble with the notion of a placeholder without the party identified? If it talks about a dollar amount? I mean, we don't want to jeopardize the opportunity, do we?
I would have I would, for this one anyway, I would have the person's name. What I might not have is the appraisal for November 1st. I've been pushing to get that done, but I'm not entirely sure that that's going to be in place.
but even if it's an estimate, I mean, there might be a rough estimate of what it
Yeah.
might be. I mean, what's the problem with a placeholder to say there's this project to put a CR on a piece of property that we're in the process of, and the initial estimate is this. All it does is it allows us to sort of, bookmark a certain dollar amount, knowing that's possibly going to, be worked on and find, to be able to be submitted as an article. But so we're not blindsided, but you don't have to tip your hand to then create some, once things are public, people just don't necessarily want to deal with that stuff in case something falls through, or, so why would you do that to somebody? I mean, I don't see why we would do that.
Right. And the only reason I would even push it at this point is because we don't know. I mean, the next guaranteed town meeting is in a year.
Right.
Right.
So
Pushing it. I mean, I think you need to work what you're working on to say, hey, if we don't do this now, it might take a year, and you work that with the individuals. But if it's going to require the funding, I don't think we need to know all that until it's a deal that's ready to fully present. But I think it's a good idea, as Eloise said, you know, that it's, you know, there's an
I'm
aware.
old. I'm
Yeah.
old.
Yeah,
I
so it
may
doesn't,
forget something.
yeah, it doesn't come out, of the, you know, the blue, like, oh, how doesn't work for six, but don't you love it when, you know, you have somebody in your family that says, oh, I've been working on this for 6 months and surprise, it's just like, well, thanks. Thanks for the heads up. So, you know, why would we want that? So I don't think it's bad to have the heads
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, having whatever information we have would be good, but you know, I don't think it's super important if, you know, the dollar amount is not set in stone, because any other project, even if, you know, it is more together, there's always the possibility that, you know, a month later, you know, some test came back, some piece of the puzzle changed, and I don't think we'd be like, well, sorry, this was different than what you said in November, you know, piece, you know, we're gonna
Right.
be flexible regardless, so I think we can go in to it with the idea of flexibility, you know, from the onset and work from there.
Awesome.
Yeah, I
Well,
mean, for
that's
Carter Street, we didn't have a number until the end.
right.
Doesn't matter if you really knew exactly the property. It makes it, it's not as complex of a situation probably that requires earlier disclosure, so it is what it is.
Right. Okay. That's helpful information. We were on track until a couple of weeks ago, and then some stuff happened, so I'm not
Life
sure.
happened.
Yeah, well. So I'm not even entirely sure that this round is realistic, but hopeful. So
It's not, who's to say that any project that comes in front of us is gonna, you know, be a done deal in the first wave anyways. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have a log of things that we're working toward, even if it takes a year to come to fruition, you know.
right.
We're
Awesome.
more-
I think. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut someone off. I think that's the challenge too with that November 1st deadline, because May is May, and then you do have to wait a whole nother cycle again to apply again. So maybe the November 1st deadline could be pushed out.
I mean, is it hard and fast anyways?
Well, not if we do
So,
placeholders.
so the deadline is because of the other parts of what has to happen with every project. So the idea that going to FinCom, going to any other
Capital
It's-
planning.
like might be planning, capital planning, conservation, whomever else might need to have those sign-offs before you get to town meeting. So the November 1st is what really works for all communities, because most everybody seems to have their, you know, their town meeting that first week of May. So the more you push that out, the tougher it gets for those other committees to have that applicant in front of them. You know, that's why that's that date. And November and December, they're tough months anyways. November is a very tough month to get meetings. So you want to have that first pass of the applicant to come in. And then in January is when they really should clean it up. And that's when they would be told to go see capital planning, FinCom, conservation, the school, if it's maybe a question on what the property might be with the school. So that's why we work with that date.
I guess
But what I would love to see is people to come in as early as September or October, and then that gives more time for discussion. You know,
yeah, and
like,
saying that we shouldn't respect that deadline. I think there's a lot of reasons why we had set on that, and I think that makes sense. But if there was something that came through a little later, the process allowed us to get through the other parts. There's no reason. It's not like a hard and fast that if somebody missed it and we felt okay, we could, you know, work with whoever else we need to work with, you know, in order to still meet a very early deadline of like February for submitting. I mean, that's the hard part, is that the warrant articles already have to be submitted like around February. I mean, so like that's 3 months before the meeting. So I mean, you know, it makes sense in November for us.
Right.
built in. You know, the one that you're talking about, Carolyn, isn't gonna require that much, then does it hurt if the application comes in December and we can do what we need to do? So I guess that's what I'm just trying to make sure that, by saying
Yeah.
November 1st, because some people will drag their feet if you say, if they don't realize that, then, they're gonna just drag their feet and then it makes the process. probably a little more
That's true
fun.
too, yeah. People like, deadlines are good, makes people active, yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
like deadlines too.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking for projects, big projects wise,
I know,
you know, a year becomes 2 years realistically, right?
I know, yeah.
Right.
All right.
And
So,
then none
you
of
know,
the
I kind-
numbers are accurate anymore.
Well, right, good point too, Carolyn,
Yeah.
right? So I
Mhm.
think if we have,
It's hard.
I like deadlines too. I'm a big deadline person, but I do think, to Wayne's point, that there are gonna be certain situations where, you maybe don't need to meet with all those groups. Or it could be done, quicker than 4 months, I think is a long time. I get that November and December are kind of scratch months because of the holidays.
Yeah,
But for, to meet with 5 groups, I don't know. I think it could be achieved quicker than 4 months. But you guys have a lot more experience than I do with this, so. I
You
would
know,
just hope
and
that,
And right, it will always just depend on your cycle, like you could have, it's kind of quiet. Tim and I talked about this last Thursday when we met. You guys have kind of a quiet year, but there are going to be
Mhm.
other years where you might have 9 to 10 different, projects, and you're meeting, every other week, or that's why I book you for twice a month, just in case you have that, so you have that opportunity. So definitely it's a lot of this is very fluid, and that's why deadlines help with that fluid aspect of it.
Yeah,
You
I
know.
think it makes sense to have the deadlines and stick with what they are. I just think as long as we know that if we have the ability to be flexible, we can, but there might be a year, sorry, there's so much on the plate, that's not going to jump to the front. But, and you think, really a lot of committees don't do much over the summer. So it's like September, October, okay, that's like 2 months to like make your plan, whatever. So unless it's something that's been in the planning since spring, it is hard. And, but I think
That's why I'm like, encourage people to come in right after town meeting.
But this is new.
Yeah.
I think I think it's good, because if we have this schedule and there are, the groups that are going to get funding that are already part of this committee or others, it's like, okay, well, start thinking about it in, April, May,
Yeah.
so you'll be ready by November. Don't be thinking
Yeah.
about, it's not just about the one that's going to come up for this fiscal year, it's the next one. So it gets them into the mentality that you need to start projecting further ahead too. And I think that just takes time to take hold. So,
Which just really speaks to a master plan, right?
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the planning board.
Yeah,
What you also end up with sometimes is applicants that have never submitted a proposal before. So they come before us in November and realize there's a lot more homework they need to do in order to fulfill what we expect. And that gives them that time in December to get things straightened away so they can come with a more full-blown proposal for January. And like we've said, I mean, you've only got 4 weeks then to get ready for town meeting warrant submission. So, and big projects, I think we have to assume that big projects have got to have a lot more forethought, and hopefully anybody that'll be coming to us with a big project would have, been able to come in by November 1st because they really have been thinking about it for a while. So, but I think, we're right. We're not going to shoot people if they show up afterwards and say, help me, I've got this big project. And we get to decide whether it has merit. We can encourage them to keep coming, or we can say, you're not going to be ready. Why don't you wait till the next cycle? Hopefully we can get town meeting. I know Maureen didn't want to hear this, but we can get 2 town meetings a year so that if there are situations where a project gets bumped off the May cycle, we can say, you're not ready. That's fine. Don't worry. We're going to put an
Yeah.
article on the warrant for November. Particularly if it's something that really, is timely and needs to be dealt with, so.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Great
not
idea.
me. It's
Oh,
the-
yes, it is.
It's the finance people. They don't, it's not me. I'm not working in the finance, but it messes up the books.
Yeah, and that's the hard part about land,
Yeah.
is land tends to be more timely.
Yeah.
And the decision to do something with land doesn't always coincide with everybody else's schedule.
Yeah.
Um, so I will do my best. I'm working on it.
Now,
Wait. I have a question for Julie. What's
Oh.
happening with the little kids' playground?
Oh, great. So that actually, my wheels were turning as the money was disclosed, how much money is available. So that's gonna be ARPA funds. We were given ARPA funds to do that. So because the pavilion's moving over to the pond side and we're trying to figure out where to place it, it will likely kind of want to keep the pavilion sort of more center hub-ish area near the playground, but not super close to the playground because we'd like to do a splash pad eventually too. Anyhow, there is a company in Clinton, they did their pavilion and playground, the same company. So after we go to town floor, hopefully get the support for the move of the pavilion, then we're gonna pull the plug on the playground and hopefully, we have to put it out to bid anyways. But hopefully it will be the same company because we'd love to just have one company working this very large project over two. So we're waiting to align it with the pavilion.
great.
And I'll tell you, choosing playground structures, you'd think that was easy, right? There are so many playground structures available now for kids. That you end up just in like a rabbit hole. You start here and then you don't even know where you started. So it's a difficult build,
I don't know.
but that's what's
Thank you.
happening.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. No problem.
So I believe, I just want to clarify, I think you misspoke. You said the pavilion was going on the pond side. The pavilion is
did.
moving from the pond side.
Thank you.
Okay,
Correct.
no, I just
Yeah.
wanted to make sure
I
because
appreciate
that
that.
I understood the final plan.
Yes, that is it.
Um,
Thanks,
yeah.
Carolyn.
Awesome.
So now we've got member updates. So Julie, do you have anything else from Rick other than what you've talked about?
No, nope, other than what I talked about, no.
That's a full plate, so I can understand why there might be more.
It really is. And like starting new projects even, I mean, when Wayne was saying you really have to be right when you finish one project, you're not really even finishing it. You're just everyone just voted yes. And you should really be starting to think about the next one. It's almost like everything's moving so fast because these projects are, they're projects. These are big projects, right? So it is a full plate. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the nice thing is every time any of us go on South Street and go past the tennis courts and the basketball, I mean, it looks great. People are out there.
It does. We
Makes
still have to
you
get the fencing down, but
Yeah,
we'll
but-
get there.
Makes everybody feel real
Exactly.
good.
Yeah, thank you.
Anybody else with committee member updates? Everybody's happy.
Yeah,
Well, that's a
Well,
different question.
That's a
right.
different
That's a very different question than if I
Um,
was happy, I would already have my application in.
I know.
Community Preservation Act Plan 2024 draft review. We didn't get many updates to the plan. And
Nope,
as-
nope, Julian, they got them in.
Oh, you
and,
did?
Yeah, so, so Ellie gave me hers. I had some additions and edits. I can share.
Sure,
It's-
let's do it.
It's not, are you seeing it yet? Let me see.
No, not yet. There was something in the introduction, one of the highlighted things. It looked like just an incomplete sentence, or I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but
Yeah, so come on, what's happening here? See. Share screen.
Wayne, every time we see you, you're somewhere else. What are you
I
doing?
know.
You know what? I think I might still be from when I was trying to get us going. When I wasn't sure if Carolyn was coming or not, so I don't know if I have two Zooms open. I might.
Oh, no.
See how it says 8? I definitely do, because it says there's 8. No, I guess 8 is correct though,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So,
Oh.
Hi, Cliff.
Hi, Cliff.
Can't control my own environment. I'm giving you a house tour. Sorry. My phone died. He was out. He had the laptop. Use the phone. It's crazy.
all right. I don't know why I'm not being allowed to do this. Let me see. Let me get off of this.
Right, you are a panelist.
Yeah, I'm hitting green. I'm hitting. What's happening?
And when you hit the share screen, it doesn't come up with all of your open tabs,
Yeah, it is.
with all your open windows. Right, so then just click on the window that you want.
Yeah. Let me open it again. Shoot. What's happening? I don't know why I'm doing it.
You want to send it to Carolyn and have her bring it up?
No, I'm more competitive than that.
Yeah.
This computer will not
That's not-
win.
That's stubborn. That's not competitive. That's
Oh. I don't know why it's not.
Well, she could be competing with herself.
Actually, that is true, MJ. All right, let me go ahead and I'll send it to you, Carolyn. So as I was saying, I don't know why it's not working. I think it's because I do have two Zooms open. But that's what it is. I'm gonna try to close that one.
All right.
Weird.
Everybody see
Yeah.
that?
Yeah, we got it.
So all I was able to do today was I popped in Julie's and Carolyn's stuff. Ellie had sent me stuff last week, and then everything should be yellow highlighted. I've not done anything about spacing, haven't done anything about making sure everything's in the same font, same size. It's a rough draft.
So right here where it says, talks about how the surcharge works. It doesn't say anything about what the exemptions are. It just, and
I thought
Yeah.
about that. It's a lot. So I think if you're wishing for an exemption, you should go to the assessor's office. Because it can be, it's kind of detailed, and they're asking for, bank statements and proof of this and that and everything else. So there is an application. which we can link on our webpage, I think, which would probably be healthy, but it is also on the assessors.
Well, we're still on that page. Can you go back up just a bit? So
Yeah.
I just, I was trying to go through the introduction briefly since that had been something that in our original plan worked on, and I just the line that's crossed out. I'm not saying it shouldn't be crossed out, but I think that probably originated from the fact that when we were first putting together a plan, we had the ones that the consortium has on stewards group had like the various sample plans from other towns, and there was a lot of heavy borrowing from that. So I think that line may have been initially my attempt to provide acknowledgement without going through the work of being like, we stole this from this town, and I'm not sure. Maybe at this point it is good to remove, but I just thought I would bring up the context there in case we wanted to make any acknowledgement of our initial
Borrowing.
yeah. Trying to keep the academic mindset of, okay, I need to cite work.
I bet there's enough of it now, though, that's
Yeah.
ours. So Maureen, remind me what isn't there more than one exemption?
So, yes, there's many different exemptions you can get from your taxes, but there's just one application that's specific to the exemption for CPA. And it's not necessarily an all or nothing, meaning that when the application is submitted, they do need to come in before April 1st. The board would review it and see if indeed they would grant that exemption or deny it. So it gets,
Right.
this is just
So-
other things that need to be, whether they want your bank statements, it's kind of sometimes goes back and forth, and it might be, it could be, as many as 3 meetings before that decision is made. But there's no, it's not like other exemptions or abatements where like a property might be visited or something to that level, but it's usually an income-based exemption.
So maybe we changed that sentence to there are a few exemptions for residents. Is that just?
There's just one, there's a very deliberate CPA application. That's just the one that anybody would do. The rest of them.
But that's the application, but the criteria, I seem to remember when we were putting forth this at town meeting, that there was more than one, and I could be wrong. I thought there was a couple of different reasons that you could get an exemption.
Yeah, and that's what I would think I would leave it up to the assessors to do that discussion with anybody that might be sinking the.
Sure, I'm just trying to make this sentence make a little more sense.
Yeah, I mean, basically, I could see it maybe even just making it a standalone. So so the way it's calculated, that's exactly lifted off the state website. It's the surcharge.
Assessed value minus it's really the first. Yeah.
So if your house is 500, it's going to be 400 because we take off the 1,000, and then that whatever the tax rate is for that fiscal year. And then there is an I could maybe reword it. Those we seeking for an exemption. I could give direction maybe better on where the application is, and that I can state that they're due by April 1st. 'Cause that
Right, it
doesn't
just,
change.
right, because it just doesn't even say what the exemption might be for.
Yeah, can
Right.
I just add that, unless I'm missing it in here, it does, by not saying anything or having a link or saying where the form is that would list what all the criteria are for the exemption, you get all kinds of questions. You're not even giving any potential framework for what an exemption is. I'm not saying we need to put it here, but it should be somewhere because otherwise you're gonna get all kinds of questions. If somebody wants to
Right.
go, do they-
I mean,
Oh,
it's
if I
big-
have a dog, am I exempt?
right?
You
So
know,
that, I
like
mean,
that kind of.
Well,
like it-
no, I mean, because it's just the exemption of the surcharge. So when you see your tax bill, okay, what you see is it's a separate line that says that this is the CPA tax. So it's not in the body of your regular
No, I
property.
get that, but if I would decide me, 201 Gates Pond Road doesn't want to pay for the CPA, can I just get that because I decide I don't want to do it? No, there's
You have
gotta be-
to,
Right,
They
so
have
it's
it's
to-
criteria and.
so it's
Right, so you're not
income based,
finding
is it
anywhere.
income based?
See?
Can we
So-
say income based criteria?
So in the application, it states that it's for low income persons or low moderate income seniors.
Well, then that should be specific. And I mean,
And-
even if it be generic in that sense, that's at least telling people it's an income-based exemption, which is,
Yeah.
you're not even
So,
stating.
I mean, it might be just simple enough to just say that there are income-based exemptions that are available and pursue that by looking, because the form is quite specific in terms of all the information it needs. It wants
Yeah,
household numbers and
Right, and
typical
that shouldn't be
expenses and
here.
income and on and on and on. So
Right.
it's,
Yeah, I think low income based or income based.
Yeah, I think so long as we have the word income, I think that is good to clarify.
Right,
And
okay,
then where to go, and then where to go.
right,
You could say those wishing an exemption should contact the town of Berlin assessing director for an application or for an exemption form or something like that.
right.
or for further information. Or
I
to
like
see
that.
if you qualify, or,
But like I said, if you want to be answering questions like that all day, be vague. Otherwise,
right,
show people exactly where they can see the exemption criteria so you can say, here it is. So,
right. That was my only thing.
yeah, makes sense. And I think it would be nice to have it actually on your webpage too. Like it's on the assessor's webpage, but also because it's your specific
Mhm.
CPA.
or it could
Yeah.
be or it could be in.
Good idea.
I don't think we want to encourage it, but I don't think we want to hide it and make it too difficult if somebody has a question.
Right. Okay, so we've already gone over most of this, right?
A lot of it does not change. The only, the deletions from, took out what, you, Julie and Ellie rewrote for the particular categories. And then the other things are, just little tweaks and they're all highlighted in yellow.
Did you get my sign piece?
I didn't get any, well, you told me not to put that in. You
I
said
told
no.
you not to, but I guess I wanted to.
You said, wait a minute. You said.
After I wrote it, I started to do my actual research.
Yes,
on
and he's like,
signs,
no,
and I
never
was-
mind.
And I
So
got
was
really
like,
confused about what we want, so I wanted to talk to the group about that, so.
Yeah, well, Tim, you should probably clue them in that we're not approving tonight. Let's go there first. Like, so there's no pressure tonight.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
given the fact that this is the first time any of us have seen the full changes, we decided, Maureen and I sort of said, we won't act on this tonight. We'll review it. And
Right, so the hearing won't be in November, the hearing will be in December.
right.
Which you probably, there's not likely too many people from the community are gonna come, but you
I
still
don't know that
legally.
anybody has ever.
Yeah, right. I mean, it depends on the community. It's really funny, but just legally do it. So you review it tonight. We'll get we'll get a clean one for you November, and you'll be posted for whichever meeting you decide for in December. So yeah, so no big pressure as far as any more changes. I think doesn't have to be done tonight. And I feel like I
So-
can't talk about a hurricane. I'm telling you, New Orleans is a different place, people. Just it does things to you.
Oh, that's right. You just got back
Oh my
today?
God. This
Today,
morning.
yesterday? Yeah, wow.
Morning at 3 a.m. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I know, right?
Was it
Yeah.
awesome?
It's awesome. Yeah, it is. Yeah, yeah.
All
So
right.
anyways, no pressure on having this like perfect because I'm gonna have another run at cleaning it up and getting it up before the next meeting, so it'll be good. Yeah. But the other thing I did work on was trying to explain the chart with the money. So there's talk before
Right. So that's what
money
this
and there's
is.
talk after. Yeah, I think so.
So, but this is all up in that part that we were just talking about also.
Well, it is.
Mine's not
It does,
scrolling.
it talks again about the surcharge, but it kind of talks about it on a different branch of the tree in a way. Because that's, how the state match is determined.
And then we've got Wayne's favorite chart.
So all the titles have been changed, lifted right off the coalitions. With the explanation,
Makes more sense.
It's good.
so this would have stayed the same except for the bottom with the ones that were approved last May. I thought I didn't have the actual descriptions. I thought you all could figure out how you wanted to word that part of it.
Oh, right.
What do we want to say in regard to status for the Carter Street that we're still not,
Limbo.
we're incomplete, right?
I think it's complete almost, right? I think it's,
We're just waiting for the seller to finish getting clear title. So that we've got the wiring instructions for the money, we've got everything. We're just waiting for the seller and the state to finish clearing the title. So we've signed 2 extensions so far, and but Tim, when I was writing up my thing about this, for the life of me, I could not remember how many acres we bought.
I saw
6.5.
the
Yeah.
6.5.
Was it 6.5? I had all sorts of numbers running through my head.
Yeah.
Okay. So we should
So
change.
what's the little blurb that you want for the fence? For the project description. I think at town meeting, they said to keep the animals out. We're not putting that down though. I don't think.
Well, it
You could just call it a protective fence, something like that.
I can put it in right now since
Protective or security fence, or well, if it's a security fence, but.
There are
protective.
there are locks on it, but protective fence sounds nice.
Fencing.
Will this wrap now?
Yeah, Rams, yeah. Okay.
Oops. We want that. Do we want just garden?
Well, I mean, it says community garden fence ahead of it, so I just think security protective fence is probably enough. My opinion.
I don't know, do we have the address of that, Tim? What's the address?
River Road, this is probably all we're gonna get.
Yeah, put River Road down there, just, and it's not about now, it's about.
River
5
Road,
months.
River Road
Yeah.
West.
Right, and where are we putting the address?
Right here, I think you should put it in here.
Right in
In
there.
here? Okay,
Yeah,
No, put it under where it says community garden fence, because the security protective fence really doesn't have enough space for River Road West.
no, because this can get bigger. This is literally what the name is on the application. So that's why this is this description.
I
And
see.
it's not about now, it's about 5 years from now, when somebody's like,
you know,
yeah.
Up above, we've said at South Common for the pickleball, for the baseball, you know.
And
now
that,
stuff.
Right.
I
So,
think that's on the application though, that way, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, good.
there you go.
I'll let you format it however you want, but that's.
Yeah, I'll do the
That's
cleanup stuff.
in
yeah.
there for now.
Perfect.
So what words should we put for the pavilion?
To be determined.
I would just say communities.
Yeah.
Community event structure.
Yeah,
That's
a
good.
community gathering, yeah.
Um,
Gathering structure.
Yeah.
Community shade structure.
right?
Yeah.
I guess I was trying to come up with a word that kind of indicated the permanence of it.
Oh, yeah, you could say. I don't even know what you call it.
You know, like the gazebo down there is not permanent. This is permanent.
You can put the word permanent in there, like. see how,
Yeah,
like,
community
like-
structure permanent. Or permanent
Permanent.
community structure.
Or permanent structure to provide shade and area for community, for events or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's good. I love
Community
it.
structure, and it's at south.
It's already there, Caroline. Carolyn.
Yeah,
My daughter-in-law's
yeah.
name is Caroline, so every time I tell you I say the wrong name, it's in my head. Sorry. Like I knew
Whatever,
it.
Dwayne, that's all right.
Perfect. I'll never feel bad again. That's awesome. Love it. That's great. Oh my God. I don't know what happened once I did decades. I think it's just gonna go. Yikes.
So then this is 6.5 acres of space.
And is it connective? Was that part of the application?
I mean, it was certainly one of the, it doesn't really touch anything else.
yeah,
Put put center of town in it
Yeah.
then, or something
There we
like
go,
that.
yeah.
Or potential water.
Right. Well, I definitely put that in my little write-up.
I know, I saw it.
All right.
You would have seen me jumping up and down. That would have been funny, though.
Right. I should take it out just so I can see that.
Yeah.
No camera.
Mean group.
No camera though, so you're safe.
I know, right?
You could
All
hear
right.
the jumping. As you jump.
All right. So, but like up here, it didn't list the acreage. Should I take that out? here?
No, I mean, it's part of the description, that this column is description, and it's really, like I said, it's not about now, it's about 10 years from now when you want to go back and kind of do any kind of recapping and figure things out. That's where
Right.
the description, things come from usually.
I mean, if you knew how much acreage for Horseshoe Pond, that might not be bad to add to the description.
And you can, it's a fluid and live document. If people did want to update those descriptions, this is fine. From last year, it doesn't have to,
Right.
I think of it
Yeah,
as
I would agree with
like
Wayne.
property cards, like, like you have a shed today, you took it down, you tell us, we take the shed off, kind of thing, yeah.
Hmm.
What'd you say,
Yeah, I
Julie?
think for land purchases, you should add acreage.
Yeah, that's probably advisable.
Awesome. Is that it here?
It looks good.
All right.
So that's just off the same as last year.
Oh, okay.
This
And
is-
then here's
this-
the new part.
This is Ellie's new part. She also, I don't know, she can probably speak for herself, but she also gave me the breakdown of the numbers, but all I did was just match it up to the chart, so we didn't type those in.
Awesome. Is everybody, am I moving too fast? Is everybody set ready? Hearing nothing, I'll move on. Right, so in this is all the same. And then and rec. Oh, Julie, you had a lot of words. You've been doing a lot of work.
And you know what I like about Julie's? I like the looking ahead, because again, what is this document? Are we backing? Are we heading? Like, I don't know.
Right.
So I like the looking ahead part.
Oh, I should have capitalized that.
What?
Well, I have pond side not capitalized and south side capitalized.
Oh, so
South
draft.
side.
Yeah. Go left.
You want them capitalized
I
or
don't,
not?
I don't think they should be, no,
South side shouldn't be.
right. Conservation Commission probably should be,
Mhm.
maybe not. I don't know, those are always tricky,
I know.
right?
So whenever I write something and I capitalize town, Savannah always gives me crap for it.
I know.
They
it's-
actually, but if you're talking about the town, though, it should be capitalized.
And that's what I tell her every time.
Yeah.
She scowls at me and we
Yeah.
leave it.
Yeah, because Carolyn, kids know everything.
Right?
Mhm.
Well, she's 25
Everything.
now, so she really knows everything.
Oh, yeah. She's an adult kid.
Uh,
Well, it's probably better than the opposite and just having no opinion on capitalization whatsoever. Like,
oh,
Okay.
she's like a punctuation and capitalization Nazi.
I love it.
Right. So I did capitalize that because like you've got Berlin Youth Basketball
Mhm.
capitalized and rec committee.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you have to capitalize Conservation Commission.
Yeah,
yeah, since it's a specific.
Correct.
group, yeah. So Maureen, do you want me to do a looking ahead little blurb too?
You all decide that you want that. Again, I mean, it seems like, you
Well, you
know, it's a tough report because every town that I've been able to research, some of them do them like town reports, some of them do it like more like, that master plan situation. It's what all you decide how you want to do it.
I think, Carolyn, that, the looking ahead's good because it's a way of sort of advertising like what your goals are. So if your goal is for,
Mm.
residents that have properties that want to have a conservation restriction put on, and they can contact your board, or if somebody wants to, whatever, it's like, that you're going to continue to explore those types of projects. I think, it's
Julie, I'm gonna steal your words
It's a
and
good
then
place.
amend them.
It's a good place to advertise your, what you're doing, or what you're
Well, right, and to kind of let
people know, like this is what
people
we're-
know that we continue.
we're
And
looking
Maureen, you'll fix the font there, right?
Yeah, I'll be going through the whole thing and
Yeah.
making it all the same and making, look at the spacing and.
Yeah, if you can be specific, I think, Carolyn, that'd be great.
You're a commission?
Oh, we are, yep.
So now, here's my question, just coming from because you are a CPAC group. This looking ahead should be more from the 7 of you, not just Conservation Commission, not just rec. Looking ahead, the CPA will continue to explore land protection opportunities, not Conservation Commission.
Okay.
You all following me?
Yeah.
Right, so you want this written as the CPA.
CPAC, yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Protection opportunities that benefit all members of our community. The
Put the C on it.
CPAC, yeah.
Okay.
I think the other part too is, I think we're not doing the exploration, we're doing explore the funding of, because we're not supposed to be the instigators of these projects. It's supposed to be.
That's a good point.
So, I mean, I do think, I know what you're saying, that we're looking to support, the groups, the conservation committees, efforts to obtain land or protect,
How about the CPA will continue to encourage the exploration of land protection opportunities, encourage or
support,
continue to have dialogues with.
Continue to work with
Applicants.
the Conservation Commission.
And any other applicant
Right, continue to work.
And all other applicants or something like that.
I think in this case, they have to be the proponent because it's their area, but, you know. and I
No,
think-
no, you know what, I as a landowner that have 3 acres, I can come to a CPA and say, I'd like to sell this to you, as just me as an individual. Yeah, you can, it doesn't matter, it's anybody, just as long as they're a resident and taxpayer. Hint, hint, I'm thinking of doing that. I looked into it.
All right, how's that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it can continue to get wordsmithed. Again, this is a draft, but I think that's.
Right.
better
But
than-
that's what we're trying to say.
Yeah, it's any applicant, yeah.
And then that, and then we did rec.
We'll do the same thing down here with
Okay,
the looking ahead.
Is there a place that this statement could be made that would cover all of the 3 buckets rather than being redundant here?
Well, yes, I think so. You could do that up in your closing. You could do that in your conclusion. Like you could, because you do have it, you could pop that down at the bottom. That makes a lot of sense.
I mean, maybe we,
But you know, but also Julie was saying about the potential project for the broadcaster booth or whatever, you know, that's the kind of thing that could go in here too, if we wanted.
Right.
You know,
Right.
what's come up in the, you know, looking at, you know, submitting these kinds of projects, you know, for the next round, whatever. I'm just saying, I think that could be in the looking ahead too. If it's just gonna be generic boilerplate, sure, but I think if there's specific things on the horizon, then.
I think I agree, if it's specific to rec or conservation or open, you know, whatever, it should be in the text of that section. If it's a generalized, the CPA committee will be working with any of these entities. It probably could be located in a more general location. So we can fine tune that.
Yeah. Just a good
Okay.
conversation to have. Yeah.
Maureen,
All
do
right.
you want me to just send you a little blurb on the looking ahead for rec with the announcement booth in it?
Yeah,
I'll just confirm with the baseball board tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, if that's, yeah, I mean, whatever you guys
You would
want
have
in
to do
it,
the work.
yeah. mean,
I think
All
it's, I think it's helpful. I think it just gets
Great.
kind of lets people know what to anticipate, you know, going forward, what's gonna come up.
Right, and I think that one's kind of necessary because we've already got the scoreboard announcers booth kind of already in there. So you want to kind of explain like the scoreboard's taken care of, you know, so that's what this report allows for, that transparency on what's kind of happening there. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, will do.
okay. So then we want to take this out and do one kind of final looking ahead saying CPAC will continue to work with.
Yeah, I mean, because one of the things I do think what ends up, and I can tell you in the community I live in, it really has happened. And the Lowell Sun actually ran an article, I want to say like last August, I think I might have printed it to keep it, about how people do, because it's always the same applicants that are coming forward, and usually because they are on commissions and whatever, but it really is anybody, like, you know, like the school can come in and request. I know that happened over in Groton, or you know, even if there was just like grassroots, you know, set of people that wanted to maybe save a particular historic home or something like that. Like if you look at the coalition's website, there are all these
Right.
fantastic applicants that are all over the board. It's not just the 4 that you normally think, like, you know,
Yeah.
like, you know, so I think the more you can get, you know, even just what I might call outliers for, you know, even one-off applications. I mean, the community garden, that's a really good example of someone you might not think that would have come forward, but they did. You're probably not going to ever see them again. It was a kind of a one-off, and it was a great opportunity for them to get that fencing. So, you know,
Yeah.
just some thoughts on what I've been able to read. And that website is amazing. I mean, you can get down a rabbit hole and just start reading all this stuff. It's
I think it's
amazing.
just, yeah.
Yeah.
I think in Westport, I don't know if they use it for that, but like they have a whole group that, rehabilitates the cemeteries, and it's not the cemetery commission. It's a whole group that restores
Right.
gravestones and things
Yeah.
like that, cleans them. And I think
Yeah.
it's an entity.
That's interesting. So here in my town, the cemetery commission actually did get some historic funding to actually do some fixing of some gravestone heads in here in town. Again, probably we'll never see them again. It was the one time, but it was an applicant of surprise. So to get the word out, I guess, is hopefully
Yeah.
going to happen.
All right. I may change that a little, but that's
Yep.
it for now. I just hit a wall just this very second. I was like, nope, brain's not gonna work anymore. All right. So we're good with this?
Yeah, for the good first pass. Yep.
Yep.
And then this is that other stuff that needs to be slid in. So Wayne, go up on the red. So I need something about this shared housing coordinator, Tim. Did you want to try to come up with something for that? Or do you want me to?
I'll put something together.
Okay. And then Wayne's working on the signage. He had
Yeah.
something, then he said, no, never mind. And then I'm really hoping by the time we close this, I'm going to have those strong numbers for you to be able to put in here. And then I added about those famous administrative expenses.
Grr.
Lesson learned.
Yeah, huge.
So. And then I don't know, do you guys still want a glossary?
I don't think it's a bad thing.
Okay, yeah.
And assume people retain stuff, so it doesn't hurt to have it. I don't retain
You can
stuff.
then,
I can't retain names, so it helps me in case I need stuff.
you might want to then add a few more. You don't have a lot to the glossary. So I don't know if there's particular words anybody wants to add.
Oh, yeah, we have 3.
Yeah, there's not a lot. There's not a lot to the glossary, so I didn't.
Yeah,
know.
I think we need a minimum of 4, just because you don't want, fewer words than their letters in the word.
Yeah, so that's so I was looking at that thinking, do we want it? Do we not?
So we could put some more information about the exemptions here,
Okay.
right? Because it gives you the opportunity to kind of just pull the description of what the exemption is.
Okay, I can do, yep. You can get that right off the application.
Yep. Trying to think of what else might be confusing or like need more defining.
Put in a copy of the application.
Well, we're coming to the application process in a second, and there's a link to
I think
it.
Eloise meant the exemption application.
Oh,
You said it's 1 page, right?
no,
No, it's about
no,
4.
not.
Oh,
Yeah.
I just think having some,
a
if
link
people
to it
don't-
then is fine.
Yeah, but I do think that explanation of or you have to tell people where they can go to find it, but I do think if you can describe it, it's a income income exemption, income-based exemption, I think that's.
Right, it gives people the opportunity to decide whether they qualify just
Yeah,
based
I mean,
on that.
Yeah, I
Or
think
not.
you want to just keep, I don't want you don't want to create phone calls just because we didn't educate people properly.
Yeah, and actually one thing that I'll add too is, it's an annual application. It's not like one and done. Every
There you
year.
go. See,
So
that's
that's important. So it's every annual on April 1st. Yeah.
yeah, that's a good one.
And then we'll have 4.
And there were 4.
All right, application process, and this is all stuff
That's
we
all
reviewed
just-
last year, right?
Yep, it's all
Yep.
the same. Yeah.
Great.
Maybe I'll highlight, we can start seeing you like on June 1st. And you know what, it's so funny because going back to that deadline, I do think because somebody sees November 1st, they almost feel like they shouldn't be bothering you until the fall. So maybe to try to get some communication out there that please come in earlier, like,
Right, so is
like, how
that-
like sometimes like something, because you don't want to be too early, sometimes people think that can be a problem, like, so I don't know, maybe I'll try to get something on the website.
Right, and maybe,
No later than.
right, maybe add some words here about,
Yeah, I mean,
even though the dedeadline is November 1st.
I actually do have that up there. I think I'm saying July 1st is what I think we decided on last year, if you look at it. But, just the idea to, let people know it's not a bother to come earlier.
Right. Right, so here's November 1st.
Yeah, I know there's some place in there that you can start seeing before. I forget where it is exactly. Must be in my
Well,
steps.
here's where July 1st is.
Yeah, and there's another, it must be in my steps, that one, maybe still on the application, the 1 through 9 steps that I have come earlier. So I'll look at the steps again and see if I should add anything into this, and I'll highlight it.
All right, everybody good with this so far?
Yep.
Okay, we'll make those changes.
Yeah, so those changes will be made. We can review that the next time we meet, and then we'll set the hearing for, like we said, sometime in December, for our meeting then, and that
Well,
way.
let's talk about that. So November 21st is your next meeting for that second review. So I guess really, I mean, Carolyn and Julie, they'll be fast and just get that done. Ellie's is good. So Wayne and Tim, what are you guys going to commit to for me?
This week.
Deadlines.
This week,
Really, this week?
I need
Okay.
some feedback to know what this group wants, because I was totally blown out of the water when I started to really look at signage. I was like, okay, well, what do we want? Because I started to write something that was sort of definitive, and I'm like, maybe it's not. So if when we get to the point that we're talking about it, I can pull a couple things up and talk to you about it.
So do you want me to go ahead and then just insert what you did initially send me then, Wayne? And then talk about it again?
When are you
on
gonna
the
send it?
21st?
When are you gonna send out the revised copy to the team?
Well, if Tim gives it to me, for the end of this week, I can probably then also even meet with June, and we can be very clear that those category balances are just estimates. I could send it out, what's today, the 17th? I could send it out next Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, what I wrote wasn't like huge and, paragraphs. It was like not even a paragraph, but I just committed to some things that after I did some more research on what other communities did, I was like, oh, well, maybe that's not. what
Right.
it's- So if I can just talk to you guys tonight about it, it'll just help me.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I will say that I went to Boston's page. So if you're gonna look at CPA stuff, why not go big? Holy moly, their stuff is bogglingly amazing. So it's kind of cool. Can I share my screen, Carolyn? Carolyn,
be able
why do I do that? It's because I have a daughter-in-law. I love her to death. So I guess that's a good reason that I keep calling you that. I can't share my screen. No.
How come? That's
don't
so
know.
bizarre because Maureen couldn't either. Is there?
There's no previews. When all it says is
Settings?
whiteboard preview. So that's no bueno. I can tell you, I can talk to you about it. I don't have to show you it. I just gotta get rid of
It's
this.
not right at the bottom, Wayne.
No, I hit share screen, but when it comes up to do it, it doesn't allow me to. It's like you have to allow a member to share their screen, Karen.
Ah,
Yeah,
think-
and I
but it's
don't know. You keep doing your thing. I'm gonna.
And it
Oh
was weird.
wait.
I think,
There's a
yeah.
previous
Who
meeting I
can
could.
share, start
Screen.
screen sharing when somebody else is sharing? Allow participants to share whiteboard. I don't know that we care about that. Who can initiate whiteboard? I don't care about that either. Let's
Yeah, you definitely
see
have
if, so I just changed a setting.
Nope.
No difference.
Nope.
Screen share. Oh, only one person can share at a time.
That's fine.
Advanced sharing options. Hosts and panelists. Who can start? Yeah, you should, according to the settings, you should be able to
No
share
bueno.
your screen.
Nope. It doesn't
Yeah, it wasn't
share.
grabbing it. It was weird.
It's like see on it.
that's
Allow
right.
share your screen. Well, we'll see if it does it. I don't know. Maybe it will let me. Does it? Can you see the screen? No.
No.
No,
No. I'll probably blow you out of here and then I'll have to rejoin the meeting and I'll have to find a new place in my house to sit to freak you all out. I lost my screen now. Where's Zoom? Down here somewhere. Oh, come on, man. Here's Zoom again.
That's bizarre though, huh? I'll have to find
Oh.
out.
We'll have to because there's a way. But anyways, now I got to figure out how to minimize the screen because I don't want to be in. I have to read what's below my. Nope, and I'm in some kind of full screen. Oh, technology, it's the bane of my existence. And now I can't get out of full screen mode, which is making me annoyed.
try hitting escape.
There we go. So when I looked at stuff, so I guess that what I had originally written is we're going to have signs that basically, have a logo and all this other stuff. But then I started looking at what other towns had done. So to me, there's two categories of signs that I think we probably would want. One is when a project is underway, a lot of
Yeah.
towns have ones that say CPA funds at work or CPA, and then it just talks about, this project is being either, and this is what I don't know, we'll have to decide is like, some of them say funded by community, the residents of Berlin through, community preservation, or some say through Berlin and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which I think is kind of not a bad thing. So I mean, I can propose stuff, but so it really
Mr. Reeler didn't like that one.
So you don't
I
like
don't
that.
either.
Okay,
I
so
like citizens and.
citizens. Okay,
Right.
that's fine. Then that's good. So that's the feedback I was looking for. But I think
They
that
isn't
it
gonna
makes sense-
cut us off if we don't include their name, I don't think, but
Who's going to cut us off?
the state won't, I don't think.
Oh, okay.
And actually, and you know what, Wayne, that's more than likely because they're also getting matching grants and funds from
Right.
the state. So it's not.
Yeah, like for
Yeah.
example, there's one that says community preservation. I think it says this project is funded in part by the citizens of Berlin through the Community
Right.
Preservation Act.
Right.
I kind of like that. A lot
Mhm.
of them have the town logo on. I don't know why you need to re-put the town logo on the sign with everything else. I saw a really funky one where basically had CPA and then right next to it, I think it was in Boston actually, is the one that did it and it had Community Preservation Act. So it just sort of became like a logo, which I kind of liked. So I'll try to draft something up that looked like that. But I think that, you know, and I know we had talked about having, you know, signs are expensive to do one-on-one, so we might not do them every single time a project is done, maybe do them in smaller batches if we're going to say. None of the ones that I looked at had a funding year on them, so I don't know how critical that is. I know we said it was. And that was my problem. I said what it was going to say on the sign and what I wrote. I'm like, ooh, maybe that's not what we want to say on the sign. So I don't know. I think it's good to have one that's, you know, like even just a banner type thing that we could erect. It doesn't have to be an actual sign, or maybe it depends on whatever the process is. But I think that, you know, especially where some of these projects like the Bullard House or something like that, depending on what it is, you know, maybe it's an in progress one versus, you know, a more of a permanent sign, like at the tennis courts, that kind of a thing. So they just had two. Does that make sense to you that we would have two types of signs? One that's more of a temporary sign versus one that's, I saw one like at a building project, like from a Habitat for Humanity kind of thing, that they had a sign there that was temporary. That's probably not the type that's going to ever have a permanent sign on somebody's yard. It says this was a CPA project. It would be there during the construction.
Little plaque next to
Little
the front
plaque on
door.
the house, right? So I just thought, you know, that, you know, of course I wrote before I dug in, and that was my mistake. So, but does that kind of make sense to you to have
Yeah.
something that's just like the project's funded by CPA and that kind of a thing? And do we definitely want the year? Because I think that just means we'd have to maybe kind of do them in a group, because to do one-off signs is kind of expensive, I think.
So are you thinking like yard sign kind of thing?
I think the temporary ones could be yard signs and don't need a date. But if you're gonna do a permanent sign, you want the date on it, then,
Yeah.
you know.
I don't think a temporary one needs a date. Really
Oh.
just, I think having CPA is good, because I think we want to make sure, you know, that the CPA itself is what's getting credit, not any our personal vanity, but because I don't think they need to know that it's town money, because people have a concept of towns pay for stuff. I think we want to educate people to the concept of the CPA, and that this is a particular way that things get funded. So I think that's kind of the critical thing, and anything other state fund or something, I don't think that's important, because if it is, then the state can provide their own little damn sign to.
Yeah. I mean, I like the ones where I think if like a permanent one that just
Yeah.
says CPA project and this project was funded by is good for the future. But I like the ones that were saying CPA funds at work, and it was almost like a promotion for it. Like they even had their website like on the sign, so that people could learn more about CPA if they didn't know. So I thought, okay, if you like those ideas, that's good. I do think, you know, at some point, maybe we need to talk too about, because looking at like how URLs are, to figure out how to do a short URL. So it would be like Town of Berlin /CPAC or something like that, just so that, you know, there can be a short URL we can use on signs or things like that to drive people to the website without having to search through the whole site. So, but no, I mean, so I guess that's fine. And we can still do that. I don't think I have to be specific in my blurb talking about what information exactly will be on the sign, but I think I'll talk about having, you know, a project in process sign and a permanent solution, and that'll fit depending on what it is, because they're all over the place how they do that. But yeah, if you've never seen the Boston site, I mean, I do think that there's some really good aspirational stuff about, even like when we're searching for wording. I definitely want to go back and read it. I didn't have a lot of time that day, but wow, I was just absolutely impressed. I mean, they obviously have lots of money to do that kind of stuff, but
Right.
but you know, it doesn't you can steal, they can spend all the money to create it and we can steal it. So it's it's appropriate and modify. So, but you know, I think I mean, it was really interesting. Some of the maps, some of the, like they use CPA funds to refurbish the Nantucket Lightship that's in Boston Harbor and stuff like that. So I mean, it just really gives you lots of ideas about things that people can do. So, but even how they present it, I think it's really interesting how they present it and talk to the community. So definitely
Cool.
good stuff. So, but yeah, I'll continue I'll get something together more, and come up with some draft. So I haven't talked to the person that asked of it yet, but I don't really know. Do you think we need the town logo on these signs? No. I really like this logo that was CPA/Community Preservation Act right next to it. It kind of became a logo because the other ones just had big CPA and then underneath it. And I'm like, that's not really that effective. So the other ones sort of appealed to my marketing brain. So
Right, well, we talked about kind of coming up with a CPA logo. kind of
yeah,
thing,
and I was
that-
really
That gets put on all projects,
and I
so
was
people can
stymied
just
by
recognize it, yeah.
yeah, and everybody else's stuff is really boring. It's basically a town logo and it says CPA and then just Community Preservation Act. I'm like, it's not much of a logo. They all sort of use their town seal. And so I don't know. But Boston has this more funky looking treatment. And I thought, let's learn from the big guys that do this all the time. So man, there's you've looked at their site, I'm sure, Maureen. It's like it's huge. It's so impressive.
I know, and they've had it forever. See, this is the whole
Yeah,
thing.
I mean, it just and it goes through the whole process, page after page after page of application.
So many things.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
that's why
just- it's
those little
really-
tweaks of the detail that we know
Yeah.
today, but in years from now, we're like, where would that happen? Kind of thing.
Yeah,
What was that?
Yeah.
it's really spectacular. So I think they really have it really sells the message, and it was really impressive how they do it. So, well, look at that more. But now that I have that feeling that you guys are good with that, but I do think like we could do, like we've had 3 projects last year. I think we could, fund 3 permanent signs all at once, and then it makes sense to put the year funded or something like that on the sign if we want to do that. But maybe just come up with either a banner. I mean, it just depends. Like not every site is going to be conducive. And I guess the other thing we would want to, I guess I would ask this question is, would the highway department help us in erecting signs and stuff like that, like temporary signs and things like that? I'm guessing they would be the source to do that, correct? Or would we have to ask them?
Yeah,
or-
I think depending on how the kind of sign, like I said, if we're doing yard signs.
Yeah, I'm
we
talking
can
like
just
posts. I mean, some of these are like,
Well, make sure
Right.
the planning board okays your yard sign.
when you think,
I know a guy.
yeah, no, I'll come up with something more specific. But I mean, some of these signs are actually pretty large because they're being seen as people are driving by,
Right.
stuff like
And they're
that.
bigger projects,
Mhm.
yeah.
Definitely. I saw some conservation stuff, different things like that. So yeah, I mean, I think that the smattering that I did see on the CPA organization site were just kind of limited, but like that's why I ended up going to Boston. I was like, wow, this stuff is impressive. So, but it did definitely start to take me in a different direction. So I really hadn't been thinking about temporary signs versus permanent signs. And then it made me think, oh, on a home project, yeah, it makes sense. It's like when a bank puts up something and says, oh, this project's being funded or financed by
Right.
kind of a
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay. Well, thanks. That'll help me
Yep.
come up with something more concrete and give you something good to look at. So, but if you ever get bored in your free time, which most of you don't have because you're on more than one committee, but it's a fabulous website. Really fabulous. So,
Or when I'm at work trying to not have to do something that I'm supposed to be doing, like
it's
that.
it was just I mean, just the organization of that site is really aspirational. I just thought I don't know, can't say
Cool.
enough about looking at it. I think there's really good lessons to learn about how, how they encourage community involvement or community ideas, stuff like
Mm.
that. It's really,
Good.
really, really good. And if we were looking for good examples of non-specific committee types projects, that's they have quite a few of those types of things. So interesting.
Cool.
Thanks.
Mhm.
So back to the hearing issue. We're meeting on the 21st of November. If we clean this up at that point, would we want to have a hearing early in December on the 5th?
I won't be here for the December 19th meeting.
What about the 5th?
Yes.
And that gives us, we still have, I can put the hearing notice in
Right,
without you guys totally have this draft done, because you'll be literally voting on the day of the hearing anyways. There
Right.
won't be a vote before that, so I can get that
So
hearing
if-
notice in.
If the 5th would work for people.
Yeah.
We can go ahead and make sure we get that date posted.
Sure.
That's all right?
Yep.
And then we don't have to interfere with the holiday rush.
Yeah.
Okay,
So Carolyn, you'll really have to move on those land people if you're not around on the 19th. You see how that works?
Oh, yeah, believe me, this
Yeah.
particular parcel has been actively sought for more than 1 decade. I will
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah.
So then,
And,
if-
you know,
yeah. So just so that I can know, because I'm gonna definitely make sure that we just have the channel 2 and everything's good, and I'm gonna send everything out, but I won't send anything out until I check with whomever I'm supposed to be checking with now. I don't even know, because Mary's gone now, but so then that what leaves us where? So then we're gonna go from the 5th to January 2nd then, Tim? So we'll be right into we'll have the
it would probably
November
be good,
20
it would
we'll
be
have the
good to
November-
meet. Yeah, as early in January as we can, because if we've got to clean stuff up before that February warrant closing date, we want to get at it quick. so.
Right. Well, what's nice about January is there's actually 5 Tuesdays, so that does help with any kind of extra we might have to do, so that's good.
Mm.
and
So
we're
I'm gonna
booked for all 5 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One I put an extra, so we're gonna say the next meeting is the November 21st. Then the hearing meeting will be December 5th. And it can just be that agenda item unless there is anything else that comes up. And then January 2 will be the meeting after that. So that gets us all the way through to the end of the year and then start 2024. Okay.
Hey, when it comes to doing signs, by the way, that's not gonna require an article. That's just gonna come out of administrative funds, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So the plan, signage, public input, we don't have any public, so we don't have to worry about that. We've set our next meeting date. Anything else?
You might want to think about your town report for between December and January.
We have a clerk. an
She might
administrative-
want to think about it.
You know, Maureen, when you're bored.
You're all gonna think this is obnoxious. I've already pulled up last year's and started tweaking it.
Oh
Why
my
is that- why is that
goodness.
obnoxious? It is
I-
big. Yay.
I have been doing this admin stuff for so long, you have no
Oh, that's
idea.
That's
To the
lovely.
point
Maureen-
where, to
Maureen is ready.
the
Good.
point where, Tim, do you want to enlighten them what we think about the actual draft? The actual plan for next year?
Oh, God.
What
Well-
did we talk about on Thursday?
So what we talked about was that we would approve this plan. And then we'll approve a plan for the next year in March. So
So what
rather,
right, because this is a very unique year, but normally this will be your really pressure cooking time. But you die basically in March and April because you've had to put everything to bed in February. So why don't just shift your plan to do it in March and April?
so the
versus
annual
doing it
plan
now.
would be updated in March instead of in November.
Right, so then there won't be any changes to the
Hardly
one
any.
in March because there
Right.
won't be any approvals.
Right.
New
Right, so-
approvals at that point.
Right.
So,
This-
so I make a motion to approve the March.
Second,
Well, that's why this is why it's a good year to make that switch, and you'll recognize that when, in your write-up, but for the most part, this will be your well, Julie's busy anyways, because it's just, that's what happens. But this usually the time of year is when you guys will really be the busiest, but then it just falls off in March. Because you're just waiting for town meeting.
We don't have to resolve this tonight, but it's
Right.
it's something to throw on the table and for us to think about that
Right.
we'd make that our annual report time instead of this time of year.
Yeah.
So think about that, because we can act on that the next time we get together.
That's when you report to the state. Right? You submit that.
Well, I'll, no, because
The
our report
state-
to the state
The
is.
state submittal is the
May 10th.
CP3 and that's due September 15th.
Sorry.
So that doesn't change.
Right.
It's just that we have to update our plan on an annual basis, and
Okay,
that
so this
timetable
will
is
be in
up to us.
preparation for that. So that's good.
And like the CP3 stuff actually really is, that information is pretty much generated by your town meeting.
Yeah.
So we'll have that will always still stay the same, yeah.
So when we meet again, we should have an update from the state as to what our match is on the 21st of
Yeah.
November.
Yeah, I haven't heard one way or the other, but hopefully.
Yeah,
If we
it's
hear
usually
something
around the
sooner,
15th, I believe.
yeah, we'll
Mhm.
send around whatever we learn as soon as we learn it. Anything else? Thank you. This took a little longer than normal, but we accomplished a great deal. That's good.
Motion to adjourn?
We have a second,
Second,
non-debatable, roll call, Eloise
yes.
and Carolyn
Yes.
and MJ.
Yes.
How about you, Dwayne,
Yeah.
Ellie,
Yes.
and Julie?
Yes.
And Tim is I.